It's the top of the hour, and this is KYOK, Conroe, Houston on AM 1140, 92.3 FM, and streaming live on KYOKradio.org. How you doing out there? I am Kris Gardner, filling in for my brother, AJ Andre Jones, who takes some much-needed time off. Thank you very much. It's not a surprise. Don't change your or adjust your volume or your screens. It is me, Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, filling in for Andre AJ Jones on the legendary KYOK Radio, streaming live on KYOKradio.org, and hopefully as well as on Facebook and my YouTube channel, Houston Roundball Review. Going to do things differently here. First time I'm going to be playing some commercial spots and things like that. But I see I have a guest already lined up for me. I'm glad she has joined in, didn't have any technical issues, and I'm going to go to her and I'm going to speak to her for a few minutes and then play a commercial spot and then come back to her. Hopefully she's good with that. But I'm going to go to, right off the bat, new head coach of Rice Owls women's basketball, head coach Lindsay Edmonds. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Absolutely.
So, you and me are riding the boat together. So my first time hosting a show live.
Awesome.
Podcasts and things like that, but this is my first time doing this live. So, well, have you moved to Houston yet?
We have not. I've made I think 3 trips out now. So kind of been like every other week. Husband and I made the first one to go out and look for homes. And then the next one I went out by myself. And then I'm home this week. Our daughter turns 4 tomorrow. So I'm going to celebrate her tomorrow in North Carolina. And then I'll be back out early next week for a couple of days. And then should be back out like June 7th, I think, officially for me. And then our oldest finished up kindergarten June 10th. And then we'll close up things here in North Carolina, closing date on the house and all that, and then should hopefully come out early July.
And since you brought up your family, that's one of the topics I wanted to discuss with you, but we'll get to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
First things first, you're the new head coach of Rice Owls women's basketball. How does that sound? How does that feel?
It's awesome. I mean, it still makes me smile just hearing it, and feels so surreal just saying it. It's definitely a wonderful opportunity, and very, very excited about it. It's been a whirlwind. Everyone tells you when you take your first head job, it's going to be a whirlwind. I don't think you realize how big that whirlwind really is until you're truly in it. Things are hitting you from all different angles. I joked with my husband last week. He's like, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" I'm like, "Can you please handle the decision on what dinner is going to be? Like I've done enough today." So I do, realize that it's just been a whirlwind, but it's been awesome. And we've really been excited, and just excited to get there though. And really be in Houston and be with the players and be with the university. So we're looking forward to being able to get there and get established and connected.
Have you had a chance to put your staff together yet?
Yeah, I have. I have my 3 assistants are on board. I should be able to announce maybe middle of this week. We're waiting on one final part of the process to go through, but should be able to announce all 3 of those. I'm down to a final 2 for video coordinator and down to a final 2 for strength and conditioning. So hopefully should have those pieces where I can put together an offer for one of the 2 for both of those positions, middle of this week to end of this week.
Now, was this your first head coaching job?
It is.
So this is your first time hiring a staff. So how was that process for you?
Yeah, it was really good. You always kind of have an idea of who you want to go after, right? So I was able to go after 2 that I really knew I wanted. Ultimately, you never know where your first head job is going to be, right? If you would have told me a couple of years ago my first job was going to be in Houston, Texas, I probably would have been like, I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, right? So most of my connections were East Coast connections. So 2 that I really knew I wanted to go after. And then 1, the last one, I just kind of called around and was asking for names for California, Oklahoma, Texas ties, and a name kept coming up to me. So in conversations with this person, we really hit it off. I think that they're going to be a great addition to the staff. So I say I got the 3 that I wanted. They all said yes. So I'm really excited about the staff, but you're right. It was hard. I wanted to I wanted to hurry for the team, but I didn't want to rush. I wanted to make sure I was doing it the right way, calling all the references, and making sure that the pieces were going to work well together, because you don't want, too much of one thing and not enough of another when you're putting together your staff. So there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of, thinking on my end. But again, I really think I am so fortunate and so excited about my staff. I think I hit home runs on all of them. So I'm very excited about that piece.
Now, in just talking with them, was that all via Zoom as well?
It was, yeah, phone calls via Zoom. It just, they took it kind of sight unseen. I mean, I talked to a couple of them, and like realtors were sending them videos of videos of apartments for rent and different things. So, I mean, I'm so thankful that they jumped on board, because again, sight unseen is kind of hard. But they trusted in me and the vision for the program, and wanted to be a part. So again, very fortunate.
Summarize your coaching experience for those who don't know about Lindsay Edmonds.
Yeah, so I played at Appalachian State after I graduated. I did high school for a year, went right back to my alma mater after that year, coached there for 3 at Appalachian, went to James Madison with Kenny Brooks for 4 years, and then went to NC State with Wes Moore for 8. The last 3 served as associate head, and between Kenny Brooks and Wes Moore, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about basketball and X's and O's, but what I learned most from them is how to do things the right way, and how to make sure your program is built upon the right things to ensure success. And so I'm really excited about, putting together the things that I learned from both of them and into my own program, and seeing us, continuing the success that's already there at Rice, and hopefully taking a step or two further as well.
I got to ask you, why did you leave NC State to come to Rice?
Yeah, was in a great position. We were obviously very successful. Had a great relationship with Coach Moore. Was learning a lot. Loved the assistants. Loved the players. And North Carolina is obviously home. But at the end of the day, if you're in this business and you want to be a head coach, you're looking for jobs. For me, I was never looking for just any job. I was looking for the right job. I was looking for a job that checked off a lot of boxes. And Rice was the first one that pursued me that I felt like checked all the boxes I needed to make that jump. So obviously great university. I think you can sell the university nationally. And hopefully we get a lot of kids from Texas. That's our home base. But again, we can recruit nationally. We don't have to recruit just Texas because of the name that Rice University has. So the university was great. Obviously, the program was thriving and was good on good terms. A lot of people, when they take over programs, have to spend the first 2 or 3 years just getting the culture right, and they can't even worry about basketball. So I was very fortunate in the sense that the players that are in that locker room for Rice are all unbelievable people. So I'm really excited about that piece. Houston being a great city, very diverse city for our family, that checked another box off for us as well. So again, it just checked a lot of boxes that I really felt like I could be successful at Rice, and that was the reason why I took the leap of faith. It was hard to leave NC State, I'm not going to lie, but we were very excited and felt that the time was right for my family and I to make this move.
Do you have a core group of mentors that you talk to about this decision about Rice?
I do. I mean, obviously, the 2 I just named between Coach Moore and Coach Kenny Brooks, who's now at Virginia Tech, learned a lot from them and respect them and trust them a lot. And then, just coworkers that I've worked with along the way, Jackie Carson, who's now the head coach at Furman, Sean O'Regan, who's now the head coach at JMU. And then my coworkers that I work with at NC State, I've throughout the years, Gene Hill, Nikki West, Simon Harris, Aaron Bath, Coach Fancher, who was the Dobo at NC State, who was a head coach at Appalachian State when I played on the men's side. So, just a lot of people that I've came into contact with and built relationships with, are people that I, leaned on and talked to through the process with them. And
at that point, I'm going to take a quick break, play this commercial. And a reminder, I'm Kris Gardner, filling in for AJ Jones on the lunch break. Speaking with Rice Owls head coach Lindsay Edmonds.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
In Jesus Christ, we are victors and not victims. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We depend on God alone and not the world systems. UCA is a nonprofit faith-based organization that is committed to restoring, promoting, and protecting America's traditional values of God, family, and country in urban areas. We desire to empower, educate, shape, and mold the minds of future generations. Join our mission at www.urbconusa.org. All donations are tax deductible. This is Sean Scott, co-founder of Urban Conservatives of America. God bless.
And we're back. I'm Kris Gardner on the lunch break with Rice Isles head coach, women's head coach, Lindsay Edmonds. Coach, you're at NC State this past season. The NCAA tournament was in the controlled environment. How was that for you as a mom, as a coaching mom? How was that whole experience?
Yeah, it was really tough when they first started talking about the bubble and what that was going to look like. My wheels were turning. Like, man, what is that going to mean for my family? At the time when I was planning this, planning going into the bubble, the baby that we have, Elena, was 5 or 6 months. So I was trying to figure out, like, what is that going to mean for her? How strict is this bubble going to be? And just really trying to figure things out. I was really fortunate that my head coach and that our administration supported Elena and my husband coming with us into the bubble. It was hard to leave the two oldest, but they're in preschool and kindergarten, so they obviously needed to kind of stay in their routine. And my parents came out, and my in-laws came out and kind of rotated through the time to keep them going to school, keep them going to preschool. And then my husband and the baby were with me in the bubble. So again, was really fortunate that administration supported that with me, and they were able to be with me. It was, again, she was 6 months old at the time, so needed to be able to be with her on a day-to-day basis. So it was tough as a mom, but you try to do your best to be best mom you can be, and be the best coach you can be in that bubble situation. At least having Elena made it a little bit easier for me.
Was being a coaching mom, because Adia Barnes at Arizona, again, as far as the Final Four, became like an issue, more attention was drawn to it. Did that do you think some progress has been made or is being made for coaching moms to accommodate them in the future? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. Adia was someone I reached out to in the process of like trying to wrap my head around what that was going to look like for her. I knew that she and I had a baby at similar times. She was very fortunate, obviously, that she was the head coach, so she can make the calls that she wanted to make. And so I was, just trying to pick her brain on, what I should do as an assistant before I went to my head coach and my administration. So I think it's awesome. I think we should normalize it. I think, working moms, I think it's awesome. Again, anytime we get a chance to show that you can be a mom and you can be successful at coaching, I think that's great. I think it's great for our players to look up to, and they can realize, like, man, I can do this too. I can have a family and I can coach. I don't have to just decide one or the other. So I think it's awesome. USA Today reached out to me and did an article on me as well. And so I think, again, the more we can talk about it, the more we can promote it. I think the better that it is. I mean, we can be both. We can be great. I mean, we can be great coaches and we can be great moms. I think there are people out there that do not believe that's the case. And I strongly disagree with that. Again, look at Adia. Look how successful she was this year. So there's a lot out there that are killing it in the mom game and the coaching game. I feel really fortunate just to be a part of that. Have you changed as a coach or a mom now that you on your third child? Yeah.
I say all the time, I'm a better coach because I'm a mom, and I'm a better mom because I'm a coach. Being a mom helps me in my coaching world because I'm going to love hard on my players. I'm going to want the best for them. I'm going to do anything I can for them, just the way I would for my kids. And being a coach and having the patience on the floor and all of that helps me in my mom role at home. So I don't know that I've changed, but I think both have helped me become better in both avenues. So I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but my goal every day is to be the best mom I can be and to be the best coach that I can be. And I probably fall short on that more times than not, but that's my goal, is every day to try to be the best that I can at both of those things. So I'm excited. Definitely going to be a family atmosphere at Rice, and I'm excited to have my girls around the players. They're unbelievable people. So I know my little girls are going to have great role models to look up to every day.
How often are you talking with your players?
Yeah, that's been one of the main focuses is trying to talk with them, check in with their parents, make sure that they know, who I am, what I'm about, building those relationships. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now with the hiring of the staff and not being able to fully announce. So there's been a lot that's obviously been on me. The game schedule was not very full when I took over, so I've had to spend quite amount of time trying to even get remotely close to a full schedule. I'm still not there, so there's obviously been a lot of things that have taken me away from being able to just be on the phone with the players. But we had a Zoom, probably Thursday. We had another Zoom again Saturday. Hopefully we'll have another Zoom again to announce the third staff member maybe tomorrow. So, and obviously conversations in between, but trying to touch base with them and let them know of what's going on and keeping them as up to date as I can with everything.
How much of a learning curve was it for you, if at all, learning how to use Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, with COVID this past year, it's been unbelievable the amounts of meetings we've had over Zoom. So yeah, we've done everything at NC State via Zoom for the past what feels like a year. So it's been pretty easy right now, but because we've been doing it for so long. But man, whoever thought that Zoom would be such a big thing? But it is unbelievable. I think we all now kind of realize there's a lot that we can do via Zoom versus having to be in the office together. So I think Zoom will be sticking around for a while.
Are coaches now allowed to hit the recruiting trail or meet recruits in person yet?
Yeah, not yet. We're still in a dead period until June 1. After June 1st, you should be able to have kids on campus and become a quiet period. So recruits can come on campus. We will not be able to leave campus until the July 6th evaluation period.
Because of all the Zooms, are you looking forward to meeting kids face to face?
Yes. Yeah. So the couple of trips that I've had out to Houston, I've been very excited about. The ones that have been in town have been in the office and hanging out with me. And so it's nice to be able just to sit and talk with them and get to know their personalities, not on a computer screen. So that's been awesome. But yeah, really looking forward to also not recruiting on a computer screen. This past year at NC State, when you're watching live stream games and trying to decipher who the kids are when the video is not great quality, they're not following the flow of the game. You can't see numbers because of, ponytails or whatever, braids or whatever. So it's been really hard. So I'm looking forward to recruiting kids in person as well as having people on campus and building those relationships on campus and not via Zoom.
Just describe your coaching philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I want to create a culture and an environment that, people really want to be in with inspiring people and that we're all working towards the same goal of championships. And there's going to be high character, high integrity people within the program and that family atmosphere. So again, when we love and respect and trust one another, we know that we're going to give our all to everyone every single day. And that's something that's really non-negotiable for me. I want, just great people. I will never recruit someone just because they're a great player. I want to make sure that they're going to be someone that's going to compete in the classroom as well as represent the university really well out in the community. So that's my overall coaching philosophy. Obviously, I have offensive and defensive philosophies, but as far as just the culture and the coaching philosophy, that those are things that are definitely non-negotiables for me.
Well, you have one of your coaches like focus on offense specifics, just strictly offense, and one on defense. So we'll kind of share the load.
Yeah, I want to my assistants to help me where their strengths lie, right? So once we all kind of get together, figuring out where their strengths are at, where they can help me, I've kind of broken down who will work with the guards, who will work with the post. I have an idea of, one that will help me with defense. So again, just, figuring out their strengths and figuring out where they can best be an asset to the team is what I will utilize and what I will do. I don't want just someone to be like, this is my recruiting person and this is my player development person and this is my, someone that's going to do all the office work. I want them to be, well-rounded assistants that can help me in a lot of aspects. But again, on the court, definitely going to play toward their strengths.
Coach Edmonds, do you have time for a few more questions after this next break?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, once again, this is Kris Gardner. You listen to the lunch break on KYOK. I'm speaking with Rice Owls head coach Lindsay Edmonds. Be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
In Jesus Christ, we are victors and not victims. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We depend on God alone and not the world systems. UCA is a nonprofit faith-based organization that is committed to restoring, promoting, and protecting America's traditional values of God, family, and country in urban areas. We desire to empower, educate, shape, and mold the minds of future generations. Join our mission at www.urbconusa.org. All donations are tax deductible. This is Sean Scott, co-founder of Urban Conservatives of America. God bless.
And we're back on the lunch break. I am Kris Gardner, filling in for AJ Jones. Speaking with Rice Owls head coach Lindsay Edmonds. Just a few more questions for you. Thank you very much, Coach, for being my first guest on
Absolutely.
my first show. You play ball. How has basketball changed since you played ball? And not become a coach?
I think obviously we went to the quarters, so that's obviously changed, and that's one of the main things. I think the speed has obviously changed. I think the parity has changed since I've played. I think the parity's changed in even the last probably 2-3 years. I think the last couple Final Fours have been amazing in the sense that it's been exciting and a lot of fun to watch. So I think that's great. So yeah, again, I think all of that has definitely changed and brought something to the women's game. I think we play, like I said, the speed and playing faster and all of that. It definitely adds to the game for sure. Fun to watch.
Are you a fan of the four quarters?
I am. I think at first I wasn't, but I think now you can set, smaller goals for your team, like what we're going to do in this quarter, what we're going to do in this 5-minute segment. You could always do that before with the 20-minute halves and the 4-minute segments, but now I think it's easier for them to see that smaller goal. You just want to win every quarter, and so I think there's more goals that you can set. I think again, I like the sideline out of bounds plays that the quarters has created. Being able to advance the ball at the end of the game, I think that adds some excitement too. So yeah, I do like the quarters. I wasn't sure that I was going to, but I do enjoy it.
If you were the head of women's basketball, all things women's basketball, and had a magic wand, what 1, 2, 3 things would you like to change, correct, fix in the game?
Good question. I I think there's been a lot of conversations about whether or not we should move the 3-point line back to the men's line. I would table that and just say it shouldn't. I think we should just leave the women's line where it's at. So I would table that conversation. I don't think that they have to be the same line. Sure, the women can shoot back there, but I mean, I'm not sure that we need to or should have to. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. I think the game's great. I think the game is great at how it is. I like a lot of things that I think we've moved towards. Like I said, I think that 4 quarters has made the game a little bit more exciting. I think the sideline out of bounds has made it a little bit more exciting. So I think all of that's been good. So I think we've been moving in the right direction, and I really like where our game is at, for sure.
Are you an analytics person?
I'm not as much. My husband was a college football coach for 17 years, and he was a quality control at NC State for a couple, and he was in charge of analytics. So he got really big into it, and has, you know, kind of kept up with it, even though he's no longer in the football world. So he's really big into it. I have someone that I'm, you know, potentially looking at hiring that's really big into analytics. So I think if I were able to get him, I would probably get myself more into it.
And what does analytics mean to you? When you hear it, do you cringe, shake your head? Are you old school like me and just say, no, this is just not my thing? Or what does it mean to you?
Yeah, you know, I saw a tweet last year about someone had kind of broken down NC State and their 3-point percentages, and like corner threes were their best and versus the top of the key. And I kind of cringed because I was like, oh man, we're going to jinx it now. Now we're going to start missing those corner threes that we do shoot at a pretty good clip. So yeah, you know, I do kind of cringe at the sense of it, you know, but that one tweet definitely made me feel that way. And I don't think we didn't shoot the ball well any in the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament. So maybe that tweet was because it brought about bad luck for us. So I don't know if I get into it again. I think basketball is basketball, and obviously there's percentages that are important, but the way some of it breaks down, and some of it just doesn't always add up to me.
Are there numbers, are there stats that you really key on that are important to you and some are less important?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, we want to play without fouling. We don't want to send our opponents to the free throw line. So we want to allow people to miss, just get in great defensive position, build a wall, and contest the shot. Don't foul them. Don't allow them to go to the free throw line and get easy points. So we always want to shoot more free throws than our opponents. That's something I think is really important. Definitely want to out-rebound your opponents and win that rebounding battle every night. So that's another stat that I really look at. And I want to shoot the three a lot. So, you know, we'll definitely be watching 3-point percentages and seeing where we're at percentage-wise as a team. So those are some of the ones. Obviously, more assists than turnovers. You can't win a game if you're getting more turnovers than assists. You're taking away opportunities to score if you're getting a bunch of turnovers. So we got to take care of the ball for sure.
Are you a set defensive philosophy person? Zone, man-to-man, player-to-player, mix it up? What do you like to do?
Yeah. You know, I want to mix it up. I want to mix it up based on, you know, who we're playing and what their strengths are. If we're playing a team that can't shoot it very well, I mean, why not pack it in and play a zone and make them shoot it on the outside and just box out and get the rebound and go. So definitely want to mix it up based on who we're playing, and want to mix it up even during the course of the game to keep our opponents off rhythm. So don't really just have one, have a lot of different things, and based on teams and based on personnel, we may hang our hat on one more than the other, but we got to figure that out when we get together this summer and when we're working in preseason, where we can hang our hat defensively.
One of the things I remember in your intro media session with us, you talked about, I think, something along the lines of making the defense adjust to you. Mm-hmm. So I think you talked about attacking the basket, post-up game. Well, your offense, I think you said, was 4 out, 1 in. Is that right?
Right. Correct. Yeah. 4 out, 1 in, and making the defense kind of pick their poison on what they want to do. Right. So that if I'm penetrating, no one comes in to stop me. Hopefully I can get an easy shot or get all the way to the rim. If someone does come in and stop me, I can kick to my teammate. They're going to knock down the open shot. If we throw it into their big, they should be able to score 1-on-1. If someone doubles down, our big needs to be a good enough passer to pass it back out, and we can knock down the 3 too. So letting the defense pick their poison, and then we make the reads off of what the defense is doing. that's the idea of where I would really like to see us go. Play fast, score in transition. If we're not able to score in a fast break setting, be able to go in that 4 out, 1 in, and just make reads and dribble drive and penetrate and kick and just, again, see where we can get the best look possible.
Have you spent time preparing or looking at Conference USA opponents?
I haven't spent a lot of time. I'm familiar with some of them. I haven't spent a lot of time quite yet. I wanted to get the staff on board, want to get the team situated, want to get recruiting kind of going underway. And then I think, this summer, that'll be a main focus for me. Once I get my video coordinator kind of, hired and on board, it's like, hey, give me a couple of games on each opponent and let me kind of start, looking at them. Again, familiar with a few, but we'll really dive into that this summer and start doing some preliminary scouting reports before the season gets going.
How much has technology changed since you were a player and then started coaching to now?
Yeah. When I started coaching at Appalachian State, I remember, Film Exchange. You're sending out VHSs, and you have to get the game, get it on the VHS. Make copies on your VHS, mail them out, and wait for them to get there to you in, 3 to 5 days or whatever it was. And then you're press and record to get just the small clip that you needed from that game when you're trying to do a scouting report. So all of that's obviously changed. Everything's now internet based. You can have access to the game within, a couple of hours after the game is over with. And computer breakdowns and, synergy and sports code and all those things that we can use to edit clips. It's unbelievable how quickly we can get things done. But I definitely didn't have, I wasn't that fortunate when I was coaching at Appalachian State. And I remember walking through the offices, and again, my coaches were doing it on VHSs. So yeah, it's definitely changed tremendously. And the fact that we can send out links to our players and we can realize if they watch it or not. We can say, hey, watch yourself from these clips. They can watch it that night. You get a notification whether or not they opened it, how long they were on it, all that. And I didn't have any of that. So I think it's awesome. We can definitely help our players learn and grow through video and through technology.
What are your thoughts on the disparity between the men's tournament swag, everything, in the women's tournament? Did it really bother you? Do you think it's past time? I won't speak for you. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was hard to see. It was hard to see the differences in the weight room. It was hard to see the differences in the swag bags. It was hard to see the differences in the food. I got food poisoning. Me and 2 of my other players got food poisoning within the second day from the hotel. So 24 to 36 hours for a couple of us. While again, I think our game has grown tremendously, and I'm really excited about the direction the game is going, we're still not to 100% where we should be at. So, they showed it as soon as we put it on social media. Within a day, the weight room looks unbelievable compared to what it was. So they had the capabilities of doing it. I have a hard time believing that someone could have put that weight room together and been like, yeah, this looks nice. This will be good enough for the women's teams. I don't understand how that happened. So I think we still have a ways to go. And the women work just as hard as the men every single day, and they deserve for their games to be on display too. Even just as far as the off sites, there was no branding on the court. So if you're flipping through the games, and you see the game on, some of them look like we were in high school gyms and there was no branding. It didn't say NCAA tournament. There was nothing added to the court. So, that was another area I thought they really could have kind of stepped the game up and made it be a little bit more special for the ladies.
And you're touching on one of the reasons why I cover women's basketball is I believe that they deserve recognition just like the fellas. I think you are the 6th head coach in the women's crisis program. I've covered 4 of the 6. So you'll be the 4th of the 6. So I'm kind of dating myself right there. I'm not dating you. I'm dating myself right there. I enjoy covering women's basketball because I think they deserve as much attention that the guys do. Like you said, they put in the work. They work hard. And you're seeing that the NBA players appreciate that. Many of them, not all of them, but they recognize that too. So small steps. Are you one of those coaches, if necessary, who will go around campus? I mean, Rice is a different kind of campus, but go around campus, pizza parties with a megaphone, trying to meet students or things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I wanted to touch on what you said. I thought it was really cool in the NCAA tournament to kind of see the male professional athletes jumping on the Twitter game and calling people out and saying how they deserve to be better respected and treated. So I did think that was very cool. I hope more follow in that suit. So I think that was awesome. But yes, at NC State, we did the same thing too. I mean, we walked around and gave out donuts, and we walked around and gave out, Bojangles biscuits, which I don't know if there's Bojangles in Houston, but figure out something, right? That you walk around campus and you're saying, hey, we got a game tonight. Here's something free. Like, come to the game, come support the ladies, like, come watch them. They deserve it. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to get students involved, and what student doesn't love something free, right? So let's show them something, give them something free, and hope they come to the game. When we win and they had fun at the game, it makes them want to come back more. So yeah, I think it's great to be on campus, be visible, be seen, promote your program, and get people in the gym.
Most people like free stuff, Coach.
Yeah,
just students, most of them. Do you watch the WNBA?
I do. Yeah, I think, again, just like I said, I mean, I wouldn't be doing my job, right, if I wasn't watching and supporting and following where I think we need to be going. That needs to be better too, right? And we need expansions. There's too many great players being cut, year in, year out, because there's just not enough spots on the team. So I do think that we do have some growth in that as well. All
right. Is there anything else? Because I think I've taken a lot of your time up, and I appreciate it. But is anything else you want to touch on before I let you go?
No, I mean, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to, developing the relationship in person when I do get there. Looking forward to the coverage, and just really excited to be a part of the Rice Owl community, and can't wait to get there.
Thank you very much. Lindsay Edmonds, Rice Owls women's basketball head coach. Coach, thank you for your time. You take care.
Thank you so much. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. That was my first interview as a guest host of the Lunch Break on KYOK. I am KG Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. My next guest will be Andy Yanez from, well, he's a U of H alum. Right now, he's not from anywhere. He's a recent U of H grad. He should be chiming in a few minutes. But while I wait for him to chime in, I'll have another clip, ad spot to play in just a few moments. So I'll talk up until that point. Speaking with Coach Edmonds, I want to touch on the 25th anniversary of the WNBA. I know some folks, your eyes may be rolling back your head right now when I talk about the W. Sorry, not sorry. Like I said to her, I believe women's basketball players deserve recognition just like the fellas do. I started out as a Houston Comets season ticket holder in 1997. So I was there in the beginning when the W started. One of the reasons I'm talking about this, like I said, the 25th anniversary of the W. This morning, I heard a podcast on Her Hoop Stats by John Little. He interviewed Van Chancellor. I hadn't heard from Van Chancellor. I hadn't spoken to Coach Chancellor in a long, long time. But Coach Chancellor is one of the elders who gave me a chance. As I said, I started out as a Houston Comets season ticket holder. By year 3, the Houston Roundball Review began to take off. I shifted gears from the NBA draft focus to covering the Comets in the WNBA, because as a fan, I was at the building. I saw those sold out crowds. I saw Compaq Center filled with 16,286 or whatever the capacity was. I saw that. I witnessed it firsthand. And I realized, I thought, hey, as a business person, why not tap into this? Why not see if I can get people to follow Comets coverage via Houston Roundball Review? And they did. Houston Roundball Review became behind Houston Chronicle, and one of my mentors, another mentor, William H. Stickney, probably the second source of Houston Comets info in the city of Houston, and also ergo the WNBA, the country. I interviewed the president, Val Ackerman, her successor, Donna Orander. Houston Roundball Review was huge. Had one of the most popular message boards, fan boards for comments, WNBA info in the league. So I saw all those things. I saw the building filled with sold out crowds. I saw the crowds all over the league with sellouts. The league then averaged 10, 11,000 fans and then petered out. I also saw what happens when an owner without deep pockets takes over a franchise. I'm not going to name his name because right now, I will after this break, but right now I'm going to play another commercial and then I'll come back. You know that owner is. Be right back. Listen to The Lunch Break. I'm KG of Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
In Jesus Christ, we are victors and not victims. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We depend on God alone and not the world systems. UCA is a nonprofit faith-based organization that is committed to restoring, promoting, and protecting America's traditional values of God, family, and country in urban areas. We desire to empower, educate, shape, and mold the minds of future generations. Join our mission at www.urbconusa.org. All donations are tax deductible. This is Sean Scott, co-founder of Urban Conservatives of America. God bless.
And we're back on the lunch break on KYOK. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, filling in for my brother AJ Andre Jones, who's taking some much needed time off. So he reached out to me to see if I would be interested and willing to do this, and I said yes, not knowing really what I was getting myself into. But thank you very much for being a part of it. Thank you for the comments, and this could lead to other things going forward. And by other things, I do podcasts on Houston Roundball Review, my videos on the Houston Roundball Review channel. I may start doing some more live streams. Who knows how this goes? It's based on feedback that I get. I'm going to get back doing the interviews that I used to do that I did last summer, interviewing colleagues and posting those on the Houston Roundball Review. But based on feedback I get, the live streams may be part of the continued evolution of the Houston Roundball Review. So stay tuned for that. Getting back to it. The owner of the Comets, who just did a poor job and didn't have deep pockets, you know who he is. That's a Fat Jack, that guy. He did not know what he was doing. And he was in over his head. And because of that, ultimately the Houston Comets disbanded and the WNBA left Houston, and the Houston Roundball Review lost a massive, massive following for a few years. It took quite a while to get back on my feet because of the Comets disbanding. But the Houston Roundball Review has been around since 1994. So some way, somehow, I find ways to persevere, continue doing that. So that's what I'm going to continue doing. But hey, this is a business. I need your support. I'm going to continue doing what I can to cover women's basketball, college and pro, NBA basketball, the Rockets, of course, specifically, Houston Cougars. But as we all know, Houston is a football town. Texas is a football state. The Rockets' success is great. Kelvin Sampson resurrected the U of H men's basketball program. The following is great. It's not where it could be. I think there's still room for improvement, for support for the U of H men's basketball team coming off a Final Four. I'm talking about social media. I mean, YouTube. I am curious. I'm not sure why, but I'm kind of curious as why U of H men's basketball does not have more content on their YouTube channel. the fans and alums come to my channel for the U of H men's basketball content. I'm good with that because it's good for me, but I'm kind of curious as to why UH Athletics does not do more on their YouTube channel. The platform is out there. Utilize that platform. Reach out to your fans, reach out to your alums, reach out to your supporters. Generate more interest that way. So I think there's room for improvement. Coach Sampson, as long as Coach Kelvin Sampson is in charge at U of H will win basketball games. Period. We all know that. But there's still room for improvement in terms of support. Reaching more people who are not able to get to the games. Getting more support via social media. Getting more support on any platform that U of H has not touched on. Things like that need to happen. So I'm going to touch on that more when my buddy Yanez joins in a few minutes. And he's going to talk about a few things that, because he covers U of H men's basketball, followed the team throughout this season. He was in Indianapolis with the team for the tournament. So I'm curious to get his perspective on how life was in Indy in a bubble, to pick his brain and tap his thoughts on how that went for him and how was it difficult? Was it easy for him? Or what did he do to kill time? All those things. NBA basketball, the play-in tournament. Another thing I got to talk to Andy about because he liked it much more than I did initially. I've grown to appreciate it based on the last few days of the interest generated. But the play-in tournament starts Tuesday, May 18th. The first game will be the Indiana Pacers at 34-38 versus the Charlotte Hornets, 33-39. Tip-off is 5:30 Central. Game will be on TNT. Second game, May 18th. 7 seed Boston Celtics, 500 record, 36-36, going against Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal. The Washington Wizards, 34-38, the hotter of the two teams. That game tips off at 8 o'clock, TNT. I think almost anybody who was not a Celtics fan picks the Wizards to win that game. Boston is without Jaylen Brown. Boston has been kind of inconsistent. The Wizards are riding high. I think they've won 17 of the last 23 ball games to get that 8th spot in the play-in tournament. The winner of that 7-8 matchup will be the 7th seed in the playoffs, and they would face the 2 seed Brooklyn Nets in the first round of the playoffs. But Wednesday, May 19th, gotta continue with the play-in. The 9 seed Memphis Grizzlies, 38-34, versus the 10 seed San Antonio Spurs, 33-39. The Spurs, 6 games under 500. Made the play-in. That game tips off at 6:30 p.m. Central on ESPN. That's the appetizer. 9 o'clock. ESPN. 7th seed LA Lakers, the reigning champs. LeBron, AD versus Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and the Golden State Warriors, AC. The 42-30 Lakers against the 39-33 Golden State Warriors. 9 p.m. The winner of that game will get the 7th spot in the playoffs. The loser would face the winner of the 9-10 matchup, Grizzlies Spurs. Can you imagine the ratings build up for LeBron, Steph, Lakers, Warriors, the hype surrounding that game? The interest is sky high for it. A winner gets the 7th seed. This is what Adam Silver and the NBA higher-ups were hoping. They wanted things like this. So it's going to be a fun matchup. And folks who know, obviously, Rockets are not in the play-in or the playoffs. So I got time to kill. So I got plenty of time to watch NBA playoff basketball, starting with the play-in on Tuesday, first 2 games. And then on Wednesday, the Western Conference goes at it. And then Thursday, May 20th, the winner of game 1 in the East versus the loser of game 2. So it's just going to be a lot of fun. And for those who don't know, I'll give you the seed breakdown of the playoffs. Philadelphia 76ers got the 1 seed in the East, 2 seed Brooklyn Nets, 3 seed Milwaukee Bucks, 4 seed the New York Knicks, 5th seed the Atlanta Hawks. That 4-5 matchup should be a lot of fun. I think that series it's going to be contrasting styles. Kind of see which one, the physical Knicks against the high-flying Trae Young-led Atlanta Hawks. Curious to see how that one plays out. In the West, the Utah Jazz, best record in the NBA, top seed in the West, 52-20. Phoenix Suns, the 2 seed, 49-23. They will play the winner of that Lakers-Warriors play-in game. So potential matchup of Phoenix versus the Lakers or Phoenix versus the Warriors. CP and Devin Booker against Steph Curry. That could be a fun thing. CP against LeBron James. Two best friends going at it. Be a fun matchup either way there. 3 seed, Denver Nuggets, led by the Joker, versus Dame and the Blazers in the 6 seed. 4 seed, the Clippers versus the 5 seed Dallas Mavericks. Another, 4-5 seed matchups are usually probably the best of the first round matchups because the teams are so close typically and record wise. So I'm kind of curious to see how that all plays out. So playoff basketball is here. NBA basketball is here. Looking forward to talking about looking forward to watching some NBA basketball without any pressure, without any worries about got to get this content out, got to get this out, got to get that out with the Rockets, got to do this, got to attend this press conference, got to do that, got to meet this person, got to interview that person, got to do all that. Different things like that. So I think right now I got a question on it. I got to hit him up. If they're healthy, and I've said this on recent lunch break shows on Thursdays when I'm on the show with AJ from 1 to 2 p.m. Central, I'm picking the Lakers. I know no team has won it all from 7th or 8th seed, depending on what they get. The Knicks were an 8th seed and made it to the finals. Everybody remembers that. Knicks, Rockets, the OJ finals. I think I'm not going to change. I think what I said before, speaking of AJ, was Lakers, Philly. That's as of May 6th and May 13th. Actually, because LeBron's healthier, I'm going to change to a Lakers. So I think I said back then, Clippers versus Sixers, and the both ratings would have been really neat for that. Doc Rivers go against his former team. But if LeBron's ankle can hold up, and LeBron's 36 years old, so Father Time is undefeated when it comes to injuries. So I would not be shocked if his body breaks down and the Lakers just don't get it done this year. That could happen. So, but right now, LeBron's healthy. I am picking the Lakers to come out of the West and Philly to come out of the East. So there we go with that. Don't shoot me. Don't make a bet on it. Don't waste your money on what KG said. KG, no, please do not put money on what I say. I've covered sports a long time. Does not help me when it comes to gambling. Trust me on that. So do not do anything like that. This is for entertainment purposes only. So just looking forward to that. We are live on KYOKradio.org, as well as YouTube, Houston Roundball Review, and Facebook on Houston Roundball Review Facebook page, and even my profile. So like I said, spreading all these things out. I'm finally trying to, some folks say, join the 21st century, join 2021 with different technology, different streaming platforms, things like that. So appreciate AJ Jones giving me the opportunity. And I'm going to mention this right now before I play another 60-second spot featuring Sybil Wilkes. Guests right now scheduled for the rest of the week include tomorrow, 12 o'clock, Justin Gorham. Yes, Houston Cougar, Justin Gorham. I teased it during my one-on-one podcast from a few days ago. And if you don't listen to my podcast, I resumed the one-on-ones. They're available on the podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple, Google, etc. But Justin Gorham, board man. Yes, the board man. He's agreed to join the show tomorrow at 12:05. And then following that, have a head coach of HBU women's basketball, Donna Finney. I may get another one of my mentees tomorrow to join in, kind of hammering all that out. Lining up, try to get another coach on, another head coach on the men's side. Play it by ear. I've reached out to one. I'm going to reach out to another. We'll see how that works for Wednesday or Thursday. I got my man Willie Gibson joining me on Thursday. Wednesday will be U of H Women's Day. I got the assistant coach Ty Dillard lined up in the 12 o'clock hour. And then another one of my mentees, Tamer Knight, she'll be joining in the 1 o'clock hour to share her thoughts and talk to. I haven't seen Tamer in so long, but share her thoughts with sports, because Tamer knows sports, and just see how she's doing, and talk to Ty Dillard about U of H recruiting and her being a coaching mom as well. So those are the ones right now, pretty much etched in stone. But I have another guest lined up, another colleague, who hopefully will be able to get her on Wednesday or Thursday. She's in the process of moving to H-Town. And if you follow her on Twitter, you kind of know who that is. She was a guest on previous shows last year. Reach out to her to get her on later in the week. And if I'm not able to get her on via KYOK, I will get her on one of my interviews podcasts that you can tune in and watch either on YouTube or listen to it on the podcast platforms. So I'm KG, once again, Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Now you're going to listen to a 6-second spot from Sybil Wilkes.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. As the Biden administration continues its push to get more Americans vaccinated, many of the nation's major companies are dropping their mask mandates. Last week, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention sparked mixed reactions after announcing that vaccinated people are not required to wear a mask indoors or outdoors. Walmart, Costco, Publix, Trader Joe's, and Starbucks also announced they will now allow vaccinated customers to shop mask-free. Most retailers said they would not require proof of vaccination. The Biden administration is also working with many businesses to provide special deals and promotions for those who get vaccinated. The CDC clarified COVID-19 advice for U.S. schools following the relaxed mask requirements. All schools teaching students from kindergarten through 12th grade should continue to implement proper mask wearing and physical distancing through the end of the 2020-2021 school year. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed, be empowered.
Thank you, Sybil. All right, my man has joined me, and he's a good Cougar. He's a good alum. He said he would join at 5 till, and that's what he did. So we're going to talk some U of H basketball and a lot of different stuff. So get ready. Andy Yanez, recent U of H graduate, freelance guy right now, but he'll be employed soon enough. Don't worry about that. My man, how are you?
I'm doing good, Kris. Thank you for having me on. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Okay. You're freelance right now, correct?
Yes. Free agent.
Do you have any prospects, any irons in the fire right now, or how are things going for you on the job front?
Yes, I do actually. I have 2 job interviews starting tomorrow. Like you said, I've been freelancing for a small newspaper. They call it Community Impact, and they're like regionalized locally to like the suburbs and stuff like that. So I've done 3 articles or 3 stories for them on businesses around the area. And recently, one of their hiring personnel reached out to me and let me know that they had an opening spot for a position locally to where I live. So I applied, and yeah, they're having me do an in-person interview tomorrow. And then second is with Vibe Houston, that obviously, of course, they cover high school sports across the Houston area. And that one actually owed to Joseph Duarte of the Houston Chronicle. He put in a good word in for me with the editors and the people in charge there. So I have an interview with them on Wednesday. So hopefully it goes good and I can land one of those too.
Good luck, man. Vibe Houston is, what we call them, a partner of the Garvey Lewis committee that I'm a part of, member of, who helps promote and puts out the Garvey Lewis Award that goes to, you're on the media list, goes to the top boys high school player in greater Houston area, which U of H has won. Let's see, the last 2 years now. Ramon Walker won this year, and then Tremont Mark won in 2020. So work with Vibe, man. I guess you'll be on my phone, on my list some more. So that's fine. That's not a problem there. So, okay, man. Did I read this right? You graduated from U of H in 3 years?
Yes, I did.
How'd you do that, man? Well, first, congratulations from one alum, U of H alum, to another. Congrats. But how'd you make that happen, man? How'd you get that done?
A lot of AP credit, a lot of transfer credits from when I was in high school. I took probably over 10 AP classes from my time in high school. And luckily for me, a lot of them transferred over when I got to U of H. So I was already ahead when I first got to campus. And yeah, I took 5 full classes each semester I was there. So 15-hour credits each semester. And, you know, I was lucky with those, that everything transferred over. Sometimes when you have those AP credits, they don't transfer over for whatever reason. And yeah, it just went along. I think I realized by the end of my 3rd semester that I had a chance of graduating early, and I didn't realize it'd be a year early until right before the pandemic started. And you know, I was able to maintain my grades up, and I minored in business administration. So honestly, it went by fast, especially after I joined the Cougar. That's where I met you, Kris, and Joseph Duarte, and a whole bunch of all the media people that covering the University of Houston men's basketball team. And just with that's been the best experience, just getting that experience in person. And, you know, like you said, we'll probably touch on it later, but getting to go all the way to the NCAA tournament.
All right, man, I got to do part of my duties here. It's the top of the hour, and this is KYOK Conroe, Houston on AM 1140. 92.3 FM, and streaming live on KYOKradio.org. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, filling in for Andre A.J. Jones on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK. My guest right now is Andy Yanez, recent U of H grad. You are what, sports editor of the Daily Cougar?
Yes, I was sports editor. I took over like probably the worst time possible. I took over last May in 2020 when there was nothing going on with sports, but yeah, I went the whole year being a sports editor, and that was really interesting and fun getting to manage your own section.
Did you write for a school paper in high school?
No, I did not. We didn't have a school paper.
Okay, so how'd you get involved with the Cougar, man? How did this come about?
That is a great story. Honestly, a lot of it is, well, I applied when I was a freshman at U of H. I applied the first time, and I didn't hear back from them at all because it's so complicated how you have to do it like online. And sometimes the editors do not check it, so I never got back to them. So my freshman year, I was just taking classes. And the start of my sophomore year, or my second year at U of H, I was lucky because the editor-in-chief at the time for the Cougar, I just happened to have a class with him, and one of the professors just said it out the blue. He's the editor-in-chief, and if you're interested in writing for the Cougar, you know, he's your guy, reach out to him. So I did, and you know, when they ask you what do you want to write for, and I tried to be kind of open to anything, just get experience. And I said news or sports, either or. And then he sent me the contact information for Jair, who was a sports editor at the time. So I reached out to him, did the whole interview process, and it was interesting because like, oh yeah, well, you can write for us and stuff like that. So I'll never forget the first thing I ever did for them. It was a soccer recap, but it wasn't like a, you know, like the straightforward recaps. It was kind of like the entire American Athletic Conference, basically like a week recap. And from there, the first real beat I had with them was with volleyball. And that was the first time I actually got to like be at a game in person. And I'll never forget this one time where I didn't expect to like talk to a coach or anything, but one of the SIDs for volleyball, his name Ryan, and he came up to me and said, would you like to speak to the coach after the game? And I wasn't expecting it, so I was shocked. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? And I was not prepared at all to ask like any question or something, but you know, it went by fast. And David Rare, who's a coach for the volleyball team, was super nice. And that's really where it started going. And it was just honestly hit the ground running from there. And they let me do a couple of football games in the fall of 2019, and then that's when I got the men's beat November of 2019, and that's really when it all started.
So you didn't have any, or did you have writing experience before joining the Cougar?
Yes and no. I'll say yes because I did it for a couple of blogs. You know, like I wrote for FanSide, I did a Space City Scoop for a little bit for like a few months prior to joining the Cougar. But, you know, a lot of with those, there's kind of like more columns and, you know, homery type of writing. And so with the Cougar, it was really the first time where it was the first time I got to cover a beat in depth with, like I said, with volleyball first and then with transitioning to the men's team. But that's really where I got most of my experience prior to that. Outside of Space City Scoop, not really.
I had no idea, man. See, I've learned something right now. I thought you had experience, you know, from high school. So in a roundabout way, we're the same, because really? I didn't have writing experience joining the Houston Roundball when I formed it with my buddy Brian Watson, may he rest in peace. So, I was a business major at U of H, just had a basketball interest, and we just went that way. And I started writing and doing game stories and opinions, things like that. But yeah, I really had no foundation of, a journalist and that kind of background. It just evolved over time. So
Yeah.
that's cool to know, man. Okay. All right, Andy. You covered, let's go back the previous year. We'll get to the Final Four team in a second. What are your thoughts on the previous season, your first season cover U of H men's basketball? What were your impressions overall? When you first met Kelvin Sampson, what did you think?
I'll never forget that first meeting. It was after they had played, I want to say Angelo State in that exhibition game in 2019.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, and so I actually got to cover that first game, and I was so stunned. Whenever, before COVID, they had the post game news conferences in the press room and inside Fertitta Center, and that was the first time ever being in that environment. Obviously, I've been a fan of the NBA for forever, so you get to see it, especially during the playoffs where they show it on NBA TV and stuff like that. So I was a bit awestruck just being there, but the first time I really got to talk to Kelvin Sampson was the following days after that game. They used to have availabilities after their practices, and I went for one of them, and I was the only one there, and I met Jeff Conrad. That's the first time I met Jeff, and if you guys don't know Jeff, he's like the nicest SID possible. And I was the only one there, so he made me wait until they finished practice, and here I am. Kelvin Sampson walks up to me. I'm the only one there, and I knew Kelvin before because he was the assistant for the Houston Rockets before going to U of H, so I knew of him, and I was kind of more starstruck. Like, oh man, well, he knows the stuff. He knows all the stuff. He's big. He's big time, and I actually still have that recording. I ran into it a couple of months ago when I was cleaning my phone or something, and I ran into it.
Keep those, man. Yeah, keep your recordings, man. That's one thing I did a bad job of in the years. I don't have a lot of my stuff, but yeah, keep your recordings.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually listened to it a few months ago, and it was the most broadest questions ever. I was asking him not broad, but just like, so it was so green. You could tell it was so green just with the questions I was asking, because I asked him about specific, like they ran a full court press against Angelo State, and I was asking him stuff about that. And I didn't know too much about the team, but I asked him about Marcus Sasser because he was a freshman, and I believe he had a good game, in that exhibition game. And so I was just asking him pretty generic questions, and, he gave good answers, and he was professional about it. But what I'll never forget about that is after, I finished, I wished him, good luck on the season, because they were about to start the regular season portion of it. And he wished me good luck too. He said, well, good luck with your career too. It was the first time I'd ever met him. And just something so small like that, I didn't expect him to say that. And I don't know, it was so small, he probably doesn't even remember, but for me, it was so significant. And yeah, it kind of gave me confidence, like, oh, this is interesting. And, from there, it just went on.
And to touch on, just add to that, I'm pretty sure it was you. I'm bouncing around, but this ties into what you just said about Coach Sampson. Mm-hmm. He said to you maybe March or April of this year about, we all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And look at you now. Look at Mark Berman. Look at Joseph Duarte. Look at Kris Gardner. That could be you in a few years, Andy. And I was just like, that's right, man. Yeah, because I think I texted you after that. I said, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Be confident in yourself. Don't doubt yourself. So it all ties together, man. So just keep that in mind and keep pressing forward. Okay. I think last year, well, now the 2019-2020 season, weren't you going to go, or were you already in Fort Worth when the tournament got canceled, when the season got canceled? Or you headed to Fort Worth?
I was planning to head over to Fort Worth. I believe they canceled it the Thursday prior to the first round, and U of H wasn't going to play until Friday. And I already had it planned. I actually have family over in Dallas, so I was going to stay with them. And, I was going to head out Friday morning because they were supposed to play Friday afternoon. So that would have been one heck of a schedule, a travel day. But, it was crazy because it was such a quick turnaround from the Sunday, the regular season finale against Memphis. And, you start hearing things where they're gonna do the tournament without any fans, and they'll probably only let like close family, and then it went to no one at all, only the essential personnel and stuff like that, and then immediately it evolved into no, this isn't gonna happen. And I remember the Wednesday before it got canceled, I believe it was March 11th, when Rudy Gobert tested positive for the Jazz. And that was crazy. First of all, that was my birthday, so I was barely coming back from having like a birthday dinner, and I was watching. I'd always had it on SportsCenter because I was doing something, and then that's when the news broke that Rudy Gobert tested positive, and that's really when it kind of hit you, like, whoa, this is something that had never happened before, and it's probably gonna be big time. And when that happened, you kind of started to realize this is uncharted territory. And then, sure enough, they actually, obviously the story goes that the University of Houston men's basketball team got on the bus and they were heading toward Fort Worth when, they found out it was canceled, and they had to do that U-turn on I-45.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that because they had the availability when they came back and they got off the bus. And, we were all like all there hearing Kelvin Sampson talk. I think Nate Hinton also talked to the media there.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just, I hate using the word crazy because it's such a broad word, but it was kind of eerie. Whenever, all that finished and I was driving back home, it felt different. Like it felt, you knew that something big was, like life was going to change for a little bit. At least for me, that's how I felt driving home after that. And like I said, that happened in mid-March. And for 2 weeks, it was unique where, in Houston, we're kind of used to when a hurricane happens. And, after the hurricane, you kind of have that it's, I can't even describe it. It's just that sense where, you're, after a hurricane happens, you're kind of stuck in the dark for a little bit, but, you have stuff to, supplies. And with COVID, it was kind of like that, but there was no end in sight. And it just kept going on, and it continued.
Hold that thought, Andy. I'm going to come back to you. Going to go to a break and come right back to you after 90 seconds. This is Kris Gardner on KYOK, the legendary KYOK, on the lunch break.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
In Jesus Christ, we are victors and not victims. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We depend on God alone and not the world systems. UCA is a nonprofit faith-based organization that is committed to restoring, promoting, and protecting America's traditional values of God, family, and country in urban areas. We desire to empower, educate, shape, and mold the minds of future generations. Join our mission at www.urbconusa.org. All donations are tax deductible. This is Sean Scott, co-founder of Urban Conservatives of America. God bless.
And we're back on KYOK, the legendary KYOK. I'm Kris Gardner of Houston Roundball Review, speaking with, I consider him a mentee. He may not consider me a mentor, but I consider him a mentee, Andy Yanez. We're talking U of H men's basketball. We're going to get into a lot of different things here. We're going to pick his tremendous brain. I think he's got a bright future. Andy, okay, let me see here. Let me see how we're going to do this. I think you are. Are you big on analytics?
It's a mix. Obviously, with all these advanced statistics that there are now, I think a lot of them are useful, but I think it gets to a point where sometimes people rely on them too much. And obviously, with covering the Rockets, Daryl Morey, before he went to Philly, was one of the big proponents with analytics and stuff like that. So I feel like you know a lot more when it comes to the analytical side of things with basketball.
Well, you know how I am. I mean, I've talked to you about this on a few of the Pasta and Majamas and just texts and phone calls between me and you. I'm old school, man. I just that's not my thing. I'm just not big on it. I know three's more than two and all that stuff. I know that. But I don't like seeing 50, 60 3-pointers taken in a basketball game. I'm sorry, especially if you're missing 45 of them. I just, if you can't shoot threes, don't take threes. I just, that's where I am. But let me get you on this because we are two U of H alums. I cover the Rockets. You keep up with the Rockets.
Mm.
Armani Brooks is on the Rockets. Armani set the NBA record for most threes in the first 20 games of an NBA career. 50, I think. I think it's about that. The record of 17 games was 43 by Dame Lillard. He hit 44. I know that too. I tweeted out the info about that. The fact fans and alums enjoyed it, retweeted, liked it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Hundreds. Last night in the Rockets season finale, Armani was 6 for 19 from the floor. He was 6 for 18 from three.
Jeez.
That's not a good thing to me. Okay. Now, the analytics could say, well, you know, that's 18 points from those 6 made threes, so he got a point per shot. I look at it as he made 1 out of 3 shots. For every shot he made, he missed 2. That's my take on that. I just don't believe in 33% being a good thing. That's not efficient to me. So that's where I am. And I think Armani has a bright future in the NBA. He's got to improve his defense. And he's got to add to his game. Previously, his game was, his better game, I thought, was when he was like 4 for 5 from twos and 4 for 9 from three. He had a balanced game, mixed up his game. I think that's more important than taking 18 threes, making 6, missing 12. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the new NBA. You best players right now are the 3-and-D guys, and like you mentioned, if he can improve his defense, and he's still so young, I think I mentioned this to you. If he can get that defense up, he's gonna get a big contract one of these years. And you mentioned 6 for 18. That's 33% from field goal percentage. Then you have like the effective field goal percentage and true shooting field goal percentage. That's interesting when you talk about straight field goals, because I know with James Harden, when he was still a Rocket, that's like one of the biggest topics here, where people would say that he was ineffective from the field just with all his shots he would jack up or his step back threes. And the argument in favor of Harden was always, oh, check out his true shooting percentage. It's high up there, because I think true shooting accounts for free throws as well into the mix. So like you mentioned, it's all a balance. If it depends on, you mentioned Armani Brooks, he shot 6 for 18 against the Hawks on Sunday, and the Rockets lost by like over 20 points.
I think, 124-95. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
I think it depends on the situation, where you might, first of all, 6 for 8, just shooting 18 threes is something ridiculous that you would have probably never heard of just 10 years ago in the NBA. But yeah, first of all, it depends on the shots. If they're your player that you're just forcing shots, I feel like that's when it's a negative. But there's a point, if it's a free flow offense and he's open, he has to take those shots. It comes to a point where it's either a make or miss. Now, if you're trying to shoot 18 threes a game, that's a different story. I think, what say you? I feel like that's where it counts, depending on how the free flow offense is, because go back to James Harden, the offense, everything ran through him when he was here in Houston, and a lot of it was just step back three. That was his go-to move. And I think when you're in a situation like that, that's where it's kind of an issue, where, you're not getting open shots. It's not like when it comes going back to Armani Brooks, he's not necessarily forcing every single three. It's kind of like with the flow of the offense.
I didn't like the fact that he took 18 threes and just won 2. Mix it up. I mean, do something. Like I said, his previous game, he had more of a balance to his game. I was surprised that the Rockets signed Kyrie Thomas to a multi-year contract before Armani Brooks. I'm curious. I need to reach out to Kelly Eco about this. Kelly from The Athletic. I'm curious why, if he knows why they did that. What about Armani? I think Armani is a better. Well, I don't know about that because Kyrie Thomas was two-time defensive player in the Big East, and he shot 40% from three in college. So Armani,
there it is.
Armani's defense is not that level. His three-point shooting, he makes tough threes. I think overall he's 38, 37% from three and about the same from two. That's not great to me. I think he needs to do better. And that also combined with his defense is not great. I think that has to improve for him to get those dollars, get that big time contract. Or he's just going to be one of those guys who may just bounce around the league and be a 3-point gunner off the bench. There's a role for that. There is a role for that. I think he would help himself overall long term, getting stronger, which he's acknowledged, getting stronger, but also improving his defense. Well, let's get back to U of H. Oh, man, you were in the bubble. Well, what do you call it? I mean, you were in Indianapolis. You stayed at a hotel, I think, further away.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it like for you? I mean, was everything still via Zoom? Could you go to the games? How did it all work out for you?
Yeah, I was in a bit of a personal bubble. Like you mentioned, I was in a hotel probably about 10 to 15 minutes out of downtown Indy. And all the media availability was still through Zoom, and plus it was with the NCAA, so it was more stricter where, coaches and players had like 15 minutes, I think. And it was strict to around that time. You couldn't really go over, but we could still go to the games, and that was one of the best experiences. First of all, when the first game I covered in Indianapolis was the Sweet 16 game between U of H and Syracuse, and being at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Butler, I feel like that's probably the best atmosphere I've had this entire season. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to every home game for U of H at Fertitta Center. And I don't know, it's something about Hinkle Fieldhouse, I guess, it's interesting where you mentioned going back to last season. I believe the first time we really connected was when U of H played Rice. I don't know if you remember this in November. And I was completely lost. It's funny you mentioned that you don't know if I consider you a mentor. That is the day I do, by the way, so don't get it twisted. But I'll never forget that day because I was completely lost at Rice, and you're one of the only people that showed me. You're the only person you showed me where I had to sit because I had no idea where I was supposed to go, where all the post game news conferences were going to be and stuff like that. And you really helped me out. And not only that, you took me all the way to my car that day. I'll never forget that. But going back to that environment at Tudor Fieldhouse, it was a lot similar to how it was in that Sweet 16 game between U of H and Syracuse at Hinkle. And I believe that every game they were doing 25% availability, but it was a lot more. The atmosphere was really good that game because obviously there was a whole bunch of Syracuse fans there, but also the U of H fans there. It kind of felt like a high school game vibe where half of the arena is going for one team, the other half is going for the other. I don't know if it's something with Hinkle Fieldhouse where I guess the echo's just louder and stuff like that, but the atmosphere for that game was the best. And then obviously the other games were at Lucas Oil Stadium, where, first of all, Lucas Oil is one great stadium, just how a whole bunch of stuff that they have in there. I think NRG probably needs to make a few upgrades to catch up to it. But just with how big it was and divided it up now with COVID, there were two courts going on, or at the same time there were two courts, so the energy just wasn't the same. But yeah, for those 3 games that I was there in Indy, I got to be at the games in person, and we still had like a little bit of a media role for both games. At Lucas Oil, I was actually on the floor. They had like a special designated section for the media right behind one of the baskets. They had like 3 different rows for media, so that's where I was for those 2 games that they played at Lucas Oil. And the experience was great. And when U of H beat Oregon State in that Elite 8 game, that's probably where being in person was the strongest, like just in terms of being able to see the players celebrate, cutting down the nets. And the one thing I regret is not taking the camera that I borrowed from the Cougar, because I couldn't get any good photos, but you could experience that whole championship ceremony after they did beat Oregon State.
Hold that thought, man. Speak with Andy Yanez on the lunch break on KYOK. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Got one of three more breaks to play. Here we go with number one.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
In Jesus Christ, we are victors and not victims. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We depend on God alone and not the world systems. UCA is a nonprofit faith-based organization that is committed to restoring, promoting, and protecting America's traditional values of God, family, and country in urban areas. We desire to empower, educate, shape, and mold the minds of future generations. Join our mission at www.urbconusa.org. All donations are tax deductible. This is Sean Scott, co-founder of Urban Conservatives of America. God bless.
And we're back. I'm Kris Gardner of Houston Roundball Review. You're listening to The Lunch Break on KYOKradio.org. Joining me right now is Andy Yanez, one of my mentees. We're talking U of H men's basketball, his time in Indianapolis covering the men's team as they marched to the Final Four. Did you think they'd get to the Final Four when the tournament started?
When the tournament started, I did not, and I'll give you credit for that. Some of the reason was because of what you said, just in terms of how some of the matchups with the teams they could have potentially ran into was. I'll say this after that Rutgers game when they struggled, and I thought that when I always forget what player it was, but obviously Dejan was battling the hip injury, and on one possession in the second half when he tried to go through the screen and he ended up getting laid out, and it led to a Rutgers three. I believe it was Baker who hit that three. Geo Baker?
So. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that put Rutgers up by like 10. And when he hit that shot, I thought that was it for U of H. And obviously they ended up coming back and winning that game. After that Rutgers game, that's when I felt that they had a chance to get to the Final Four. And I remember telling someone after that game where their path has got a lot easier, because I don't know who, I've heard someone mention this before where, throughout this entire tournament, there's always going to be one game for whoever wins or whoever goes that far where, it's a tough grinded out game where they probably could lose, like, those tough games. And that was it for U of H, and they survived it. And, the other teams in the bracket, the high seeds like Illinois, were not able to survive their games. And when U of H beat Rutgers, I felt like their path was a lot clearer. And, it ended up being true.
Did any of the players, this COVID year, did you get a chance to interview players outside of our media sessions?
Yes, but I don't think it was during the season. Like, I remember in September, at the very beginning of September, the University of Houston athletics, all the athletes as a whole, they held like a demonstration on campus.
Right.
And they had a march and they walked around. Prior to that, or during that march, before it actually began, I got to interview like J1 Roberts and a couple of the other players just before the march started. And really, outside of that, I believe that's it in terms of like remote type of interviews. Now, if you're talking about like the designated times they had for us, yeah, I was able to interview a couple of other people just by reaching out to Jeff and setting up like personal, one-on-one stuff. I interviewed a whole bunch of coaches for the Fabian White story I did on from his injury rehab and stuff like that. I was able to talk to Alan Bishop, Kellen, Sampson, John Houston, and if you wanted to set up a personal interview, I'd just go to Jeff.
Right. What is it about writing or your job that you enjoy? Why do you do it?
Well, I'll give you the funny answer. Before COVID, I love media because of the food that you get when you get to the press box. But when it comes to writing and stuff like that, I just like the stories, like telling people's stories. When it comes to the whole interview process, it's interesting. I don't know if anyone that's watching, you could probably tell sometimes I'm a bit of an introvert, so it kind of forces me to have to step out of my comfort zone. But that whole interview process, like I've done it for like about 1.5 years, close to 2 years now. And it's just interesting. And it's one of the things that Joseph Duarte taught me was, when you're interviewing someone, obviously sometimes you're going to have like a certain angle in mind that you kind of want to get to. But the best stories are sometimes something like you're not even thinking about. And you really have to pay close attention to, what coaches or players are saying. Or sometimes it could be one little remark and you catch it and you can expand upon that. And not only on the athlete himself that's talking, but you can start asking other people around. And that's where, you kind of get sometimes your best stories come out of something so small, and you just have to pay attention.
Yeah, that's what I did. My interview with Coach Alan Bishop last summer. One thing Bishop said was, man, I don't want this to be audio or video, but I'll talk to you, So I transcribed it. That was great, man. That's one of my I think I turned it in like a 3-part series about him and his work and experience. And that was weeks after Fabian tore his ACL. So we couldn't talk about that stuff on the record. We kind of danced around it about recovery and working with injured players, things like that. Bishop is a great dude, great guy to talk to, and a key to the men's basketball team's success. What do you also cover the women's team, or have you covered the women's team?
As a sports editor, I covered them a little bit. Because I was in charge of everything with the branch, so I was well aware of their whole season and what was going on at the beginning. Before we had like probably 3 or 4 writers before the spring term, so I was more involved during that process when they were getting ready to start the season. And over the course, I kind of focused more on the men's side, but I was able to cover them for a fair amount.
What are your thoughts on Coach Ronald Huey? Who talks more? Who gives you a longer answer, Coach Huey or Coach Kelvin Sampson?
Ooh, that's interesting. I feel like Kelvin Sampson is going to give you the longer answers, but Coach Huey is going to be more open in regards to whatever you ask him. And with Kelvin, it's interesting because, like I mentioned with the NCAA tournament, where it was more stricter and there was like 15-minute time limits, there was a point where Kelvin Sampson would only answer like 3 questions during that time because he would give like such in-depth answers. But, Ron Huey is a pretty good interview too, and he's a lot more open in terms of, if you ask him something, he'll be more honest and not honest. He'll be more like willing to share like answers and stuff like that. I feel like you could ask him more stuff and he'll be more open to talk.
Yeah, I think Coach Huey's being younger and not as long in the game as Coach Kelvin. Coach Kelvin has learned to give you answer the question he wants where he wants to answer it. Right. Coach Huey is the straight shooter. Sometimes I like, Coach, you probably shouldn't have told us that, kind of thing. But it's all good there. I just had a question, and it just escaped me because talking about Coach Huey and the answer. Okay, my man, let's get into the ESPN Plus and the American. You've heard my podcast, my one-on-ones. I don't believe it's gotten any better, but just your thoughts on what the American can do as a whole to improve its marketing and branding and just everything, get more attention to itself.
Yeah, you've been on the record a whole bunch of times. I've heard you, like you mentioned on your podcast, you kind of get on the American for their marketing. I think, I don't know if you'd want me to say this, but you said you feel like you'd be a better marketer for the American on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
And no, not just ESPN Plus. I think in general, obviously with Mike Oresco and the American have kind of branded that themselves as the Power Six Conference or the Sixth Conference. And I believe before the American Athletic Conference Championship, Mike Oresco kind of talked about how he wants the American to be considered with those other power conferences.
Right.
And, ESPN Plus is a big part of it, where it kind of, I wouldn't say it shows that they need to do more if they really want to be on that level. I'll put it that way.
Agreed.
Like you mentioned, I feel like their content isn't where it needs to be. And I feel where some of the live streams that they did, especially for the football games, and this might not even be on them or stuff like that, but they have a lot of stuff that they need to iron out. I remember when U of H played, I believe it was UCF in one of the football games, their broadcast was really laggy and it was so far behind, and I'm not sure if that's like on ESPN or on the conference or whatever, but even in terms of content, they don't have that much. Like you mentioned, I believe they only have what's upcoming, and they're going to have a stream and a couple of selected like live replays where you can go back and watch games. And I feel like it's the way they're organized too. I was actually, when you told me we were going to talk about this yesterday, I went through it and checked it out again. And I don't know if it's my app, but they're not organized in terms of sports. Like you said, it's like what's upcoming, and it's a couple of replays that they have, and it's all kind of jumbled up.
Right.
Like you can't even divide it by sports. It's all like, this is what we have, and you have to scroll past and figure out what you want.
It's night and day, the American on ESPN Plus compared to the Big 12 now ESPN Plus channel. And as you said, if the American wants to be considered one of the big boys, big girls, whatever, a Power Six program, they need to do better. They need to start producing some quality content, some original shows. Follow coaches around campus, do some shows, something. I mean, at minimum, show the press conferences from your other sports, from your Olympic sports on the channel. Not just relying on that team's YouTube channel. But I would like to see, they had the Memphis show, what is it called? The Harder Way.
Yeah.
2 seasons ago with James Wiseman. Okay. I know COVID impacted all of us in terms of coverage, but when you got platforms like this available to you and technology like this, they could do shows, they could produce content some way, somehow. If you got to talk to the coach from his or her house, there are ways to get more content out for your channel. So it's May 17th. This is not a podcast, but I'm going to toss out that rock again, the challenge again, one more time to the American Athletic Conference. Add more content to your ESPN Plus channel. Now, please, the summer, you got the whole summer to get this done, to get ready for football season. They need to do something with the Cincinnati Bearcats football team and Luke Fickell.
Yeah,
that program is the bell cow for the conference in football. They need to have some Bearcats shows on ESPN Plus, programming for Bearcats. I know U of H alums are going to hold their nose right now, but they need content on the channel. They need to have content. U of H, all the schools need to have content on the ESPN Plus channel. I'm not just picking on the conference. I'm picking on everybody else, the member schools as well. They need to have content, produce content on the American, because how can you ask folks to subscribe to the channel if you don't give them reason to want to get the channel? Because the games are nice, but you can have content every day of the week. So there's more ways to reach and appease your fans and give them something, give them a behind the scenes look at basketball, baseball, football, track. I'm Coach Leroy Burrell's track team just won again.
Yeah.
Do something with Leroy Burrell. Success. There are successful programs throughout the conference. Tell their stories too. It's not just football, and it's not just men's and women's basketball. Tell those athletes' stories as well. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Kris, you're the one that asked Mike Oresco during that press conference they had after or before the championship game. You kind of asked him about that, right? About what their plan was to improve their conference content, and I believe that's when he said that he wanted to rise the American Athletic Conference into that Power 5 level. I believe that's the answer he gave you, correct?
He mentioned that there was discussions Well, first I asked him if all the schools had the studio capabilities to produce content. He said yes. I said, okay. And then I asked him, okay, so when are they going to produce content? And his answer was there were discussions and plans for some content centering around African-American history, diversity, stories like that. Okay, that's a start. Where is it? That was 2 months ago when he had that State of the Conference talk at the championship game for the men's basketball tournament. Okay, that was March. We're mid-May. Where's that content? You got me warm now, man. But so I got to play one more break. I got 2 more breaks to play. This is the first of those remaining 2. You're listening to Kris Gardner on the lunch break on the legendary KYOK
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
In Jesus Christ, we are victors and not victims. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We depend on God alone and not the world systems. UCA is a nonprofit faith-based organization that is committed to restoring, promoting, and protecting America's traditional values of God, family, and country in urban areas. We desire to empower, educate, shape, and mold the minds of future generations. Join our mission at www.urbconusa.org. All donations are tax deductible. This is Sean Scott, co-founder of Urban Conservatives of America. God bless.
And we're back. I am Kris Gardner filling in for AJ Jones during the lunch break on the legendary KYOK, streaming live on KYOKradio.org, and as well as my platforms. Thank you for the folks watching on the Houston Roundball Review channel, giving comments. I appreciate that. Show is streaming live also on Facebook on the Houston Roundball Review Facebook page and my personal profile as well. Speaking with Andy Yanez, recent U of H grad, soon to be employed at hopefully the Vipe or somewhere else. Follow the Houston Cougars men's basketball team, was the sports editor for the school paper, the Daily Cougar. Andy, while I got you on here, you're my guinea pig, so don't hate on me right now.
You're fine.
I'm going to try to play some comments from Coach Stephen Silas from a press conference about 4 or 5 days ago, when he touched on one of the things he noticed about has changed in the NBA. And this comment warmed my heart because it was about post-up.
Oh, never mind.
The post-up, I would say the post-up has become a little bit more prominent because of the switching. So teams are posting more, and we're having to deal with whether it's the Embiids and Jokic's of the world, or the two guys who we were going to play tonight, their post-ups and that sort of thing. I would say we're seeing more post-ups. We're having to teach more post-up defensive schemes. We're having to teach more individual post technique, and for the last few years, that hasn't necessarily been something that we've had to focus on. But yeah, for this season, we've had to kind of game plan post-ups more than we had the last couple seasons. And then you see us, as far as Kelly coming here and taking advantage of switches in the post, and we're posting more since he's been here, and Jayshawn Tate taking advantage of switches and posting as well. So I would say like the re-emergence of the post-up is, off the top of my head, one of the things that we're seeing a little bit more of.
And the person you will hear, the voice you'll hear next before the follow, this to be a follow-up question, is Ali Khan Bajani, aka the Rockets Insider on Twitter. If you don't follow him on Twitter, if you're a Rockets fan and don't follow him, shame on you. My man, young man he is studying to become a doctor, but he breaks down basketball footage. He gives you a different perspective on plays. He studies the game. And his follow-up question, it'll be his voice you hear, Ali Khan Bajani.
Is this also because of the way teams are defending, shooting teams in particular, where they're trying to force them off the three-point line, but also take away things at the rim, where you have that mid-range area open? Is it better to kind of slow it down and get it into the post to be able to create?
Yeah, I mean, teams are definitely trying to take away the three, and the other side of it is teams are trying to figure out a way to get more threes. And if you're not using pick and roll, if you're not using drive and kick, another way to get to it is the post stuff. And if you have a guy who can do anything down there, then you're drawing help, you're drawing double teams, you're drawing situations where the kick out of the post becomes a potent weapon. And with Cousins tonight, I'm sure he'll post up some and he can pass and kick out to three-point shooters as well. So yes, the three-point shot definitely has something to do with it. But I also think that the numbers surrounding it, teams generally just kind of allowed some post-ups because the numbers aren't necessarily great on the defense. I would say.
What are your thoughts on that, man?
It's certainly interesting, but I have seen that too when it comes to the post game. I feel like the NBA kind of goes to the stages where, sometimes, especially in the past 5 or so years, where Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and the backcourt for the Warriors were launching threes all over the court. You saw more NBA teams kind of gravitate towards that. But one thing that I feel Golden State did good when they were running, when they were part of that run, was they used a lot of off-ball action. And a lot of the times they would give the ball to Draymond Green around, not necessarily in the post, but just in that top of the corner area in the paint. And they would run a whole bunch of back or off-ball action. That's how you would see Curry get open a lot. And that's interesting with what Silas just said. Well, first of all, the Rockets finally have post players with Christian Wood and Kelly Olynyk. So they've been able to, I guess, have more diversity in their offense. But it's interesting to have him say that when you see, I feel like the NBA does that transition stage. And now that there's not necessarily a dominant team like the Warriors, where you kind of start to see that more, where players, or big men in particular, don't have to be worried as much about spreading out a full 5-man offense where they have to worry about shooters. I feel like that might have something to do with why you see, post game emerging again.
I think Embiid, Joel Embiid, and Jokic, the Joker, it's good to see them spend some time in the post, because if they're in the post, they're going to draw double and triple teams, and they're good enough to kick it out to their open shooters or the cutters, and they can facilitate the offense from the post as well. So, from that low post offense, you can still get your 3-point shots. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I've always maintained and continue to maintain. You can still get 3-point shots with a low post game. And if you don't double team or triple team, then you're going to let Embiid punish you down low all day long. And Joel Embiid, 5 feet from the basket, got to be a much higher percentage than some average 3-point shooter 25 feet from the basket. So that's my take on that. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear Stephen Silas say what he said there. So appreciate that, man. Okay. I think you tweeted this to me about U of H getting a 4-star recruit, Emmanuel Sharp. What do you know about Emmanuel Sharp? So you no longer at the Cougars. Question for you. Who is now the men's basketball beat writer for the Daily Cougar?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I'd probably lean towards James Mueller. He's the new sports editor, so it's his decision to make, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be heavily involved with that coverage. And if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. honestly, he's doing a better job covering the smaller sports than I did. Well, in terms of the coverage, I know, like you mentioned, the university track and field team for both the men's and women's, they just ended up winning the American Athletic Conference championships just on Sunday. So I believe he reached out to one of the coaches and was able to interview him. But going back to Emmanuel, what surprised me, or I wouldn't say surprised, what stood out to me about his commitment, first of all, his commitment was, I would say, it's relatively early in terms of
Very
how
much.
far out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just from the quotes that he's given to the people he's spoken to, he seems like he's 100% locked in that U of H is the best place for him. And I think obviously a big part of that was just their recent Final Four run. And this is something we've talked about in the past with you expect U of H to start getting those bigger and bigger names. And I think that commitment as early as it was and how deadlocked it seems like he is to the program and how really he feels like it's the best place for him to develop, you're going to start seeing that a lot more and with higher ranking talent.
And one thing that surprised me was his dad played college ball at USF.
Yeah.
And yet he chose to commit to U of H. So I think that's good on Emmanuel for following his own path. It's a good thing for his dad to not pressure his son to follow him, go to his school where he went. So, and his dad, from reading, was a heck of a player overseas. Won a lot of championships, EuroLeague championships. But Emmanuel Sharp, recruiting services, I'm not big on them because, I think some of them are biased and based, but he's a top 100, consensus top 100 player. Some as high as 60. That might be like 2 months old, but 60, 64, and I think 81. So he's 6'4", 200 pounds. He looks like, and I think you've seen pictures of him, maybe some clips of him.
Yeah.
He looks like Jaron Cumberland.
That's an interesting comparison.
So I think he's a better shooter, 3-point wise, than Jaron was, but build wise, physically, I think he still got to tighten up his body. He's still in high school, but once he gets to U of H, I think Coach Alan Bishop will have no problem, assuming he's willing to put in the work. Because why would you sign with U of H if you're not going to work hard? Because Coach Sampson and the staff will not put up with players who don't work hard. We've all learned that.
Yeah.
So,
my bad, Chris. I didn't mean to cut you off, but one thing I wanted to say is, we talked about it at the top of when I first joined the show, and Houston, the University of Houston's done a good job landing, the top players from the local area. With Emmanuel, he's coming all the way from Tampa, and like you mentioned, his dad went to USF. I think that shows how much more of a nationally relevant program U of H is becoming. And it's interesting that I believe it was from The Athletic, the article they did on U of H recently, where the comparison they're kind of made with U of H is kind of to be like Villanova. And
that's we talked about this. You and I talked about that. I think that makes some sense. Initially, I kicked around the comparison to Gonzaga because smaller conference, and the Zags dominate the West Coast Conference. But they do have St. Mary's has a few good years, here and there. But Villanova in the Big East, U of H, it could become that in the American. I've grown to kind of like that because the Big East overall has more good teams, more tournament teams than the West Coast Conference.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to the American Athletic Conference is it's been interesting with the new transfer portal rules. They've become a lot more lenient. What do you think about all the talent that's kind of left the American Athletic Conference from the I don't want to call them the bottom tier teams, but I feel like at the top, obviously you have Houston, and then Memphis is always going to be relevant in there. But really outside, Houston hasn't really seen players transfer out except Cam Tyson, who his role was kind of in doubt. But when it comes to the other teams in the American, they've lost a lot of players and a lot of big names too. Just look at East Carolina with Jaden Gardner. What do you think about the talent that's left the conference?
Yeah, Jaden Gardner leaving East Carolina wasn't a surprise because he was tired of losing. I mean, he's all conference, put up double doubles, and they're just not having success on the court as a team. So that didn't surprise me. I think I joked with you when I heard he was transferring, before he committed, that come to U of H,
Yeah.
But yeah, the lower tier programs losing players is a concern because you got to see who they're going to replace them with.
Mhm.
So that's a concern. I think Memphis lost players. The conference needs Memphis to be great. They need U of H and Memphis to be great. Cincinnati to get back on track. I think Coach Wes Miller taking over will help the program. And Andy, before we wrap it up, let me do my final spot of the show. And here we go, listening to Sybil Wilkes.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what you need to know. As the Biden administration continues its push to get more Americans vaccinated, many of the nation's major companies are dropping their mask mandates. Last week, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention sparked mixed reactions after announcing that vaccinated people are not required to wear a mask indoors or outdoors. Walmart, Costco, Publix, Trader Joe's, and Starbucks also announced they will now allow vaccinated customers to shop mask-free. Most retailers said they would not require proof of vaccination. The Biden administration is also working with many businesses to provide special deals and promotions for those who get vaccinated. The CDC clarified COVID-19 advice for U.S. schools following the relaxed mask requirements. All schools teaching students from kindergarten through 12th grade should continue to implement proper mask wearing and physical distancing through the end of the 2020-2021 school year. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed, be empowered.
Thank you, Sybil. This is Kris Gardner in the home stretch here of my first guest hosting opportunity on the legendary KYOK on the lunch break, filling in for AJ Andre Jones, who's taking some much needed time off. I'll be hosting May 18th, 19th, and 20th. Andy doesn't know yet, but I may get him on again, depending on how guests fall through or fall out. So I may get him, if he doesn't land a job. You have been voluntold, my man, for coming on later on in the week, because I would like to talk to you about the NBA playoffs and talk some predictions, because I want to give you credit because you asked me my thoughts on the play-in tournament. Mm-hmm. And when you first mentioned it to me, I didn't like it, but I've grown to appreciate it more because of the interest it generated from those teams battling for those last few spots. But I don't really like it for the team in the 7th spot, because if that team is up 3, 4, 5 games over the 8th spot, I think they should be in the playoffs. They shouldn't have to play for a spot in the playoffs. But this year, I think that was the rule last year for the bubble. I think the number was like 4. Mm-hmm. If you were not within 4 games, you weren't, you didn't have a chance to compete for it. But other than that, I think the teams 8, 9, and 10 should be the spots. The 8 seed should be the spot teams play for. What do you think?
Yeah, and going back to how it is this year, I feel like it couldn't have gone any better for the way it turned out for the NBA. Just having that Lakers-Warriors playing game, that's probably like the best marquee matchup they could have for a potential play-in. But I agree with you with the 7th seed probably shouldn't be included, especially if they have a big cushion compared to the other teams. But I feel like, I think Kendrick Perkins has said this before on like First Taker, one of those ESPN shows, where he likes it because it's certainly added a lot more competition towards the end of the regular season with the NBA. And I don't know, probably a big part of it has to do with just how shortened this past season was. And there wasn't enough, on an unusual year. Maybe it's not as close as it was down the stretch, but you certainly didn't have as many teams resting players who were in that play-in scenario. They were in the bubble to be in the play-in. And even look at yesterday or on Sunday, where, the Lakers played down the stretch and they had to play all their guys against the Pelicans, who ended up resting their players, and Portland too. They had a lot to play for, and just it's obviously there's always unintended consequences, but I feel like it was successful in what the NBA wanted, at least for this season, in terms of limiting that rest and kind of making it seem like the final half of the regular season games are kind of meaningless, which it kind of felt like that before they introduced the play-in.
Well, it was meaningless it's meaningful / meaningless for the teams with no shot, like the Rockets and the Pistons and OKC and all those teams. but they were playing for other things. They were playing for ping pong balls. So see, that's what I got to get you back on later on this week, man. We got to talk about that, about the Rockets lottery chances as well as my Pistons. So, and Yanez, good luck to you on the job interviews the next 2 days, my man. Keep you informed on that. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, guest hosting on the lunch break on KYOK, KYOKradio.org. Thank you, AJ Jones. Thank you for the chance. Folks, if you liked it, tune in tomorrow, because the plan is to have on Justin Gorham, U of H graduate now, forward the board man. Justin Gorham will be on the top of the 12 o'clock hour, hopefully around 12:05. So tune in for that. Everyone, thank you for your time. Andy, thank you as well. May not have enough time to play this other clip I have with Paul Silas. But basically, he says that he's going to talk to the team today about planning what they're going to do for the offseason, but he wants to talk to them after about 2 weeks to give them a chance to decompress and just relax and kind of recharge their batteries and get healthy, because he's going to do that as well, because this season was a drain on the Rockets and everybody covering them. And Yanez, man, take care. Listeners, tune in tomorrow. KYOKradio.org, Houston Roundball Review. I'm Kris Gardner. Take care.